Broadcasting the boisterous part of the fastest game in the world. So strap on your lids and lace them up, Rook. You're listening to the Barn Chirpers Hockey Podcast. Take a lap. Clap it up, boys. Clap it up. We are the Barn Chirpers. You know that because I just said that in the opening. And you can follow us and chirp at us at Barn Chirpers Pod on the Instagram and the threads. And I say it every week. You know what to do if you want to hear more of us. Also, Justin threw it out last week. If you want more of us, then, you could interact with us more. And then maybe we'll give you more. Maybe a live stream, maybe a PWHL watch along, maybe who knows? You know what I mean? Like we're here for it. So if you want more, you just got to ask for it. That's all it takes. And somebody that was asking for it, Justin, and he got it finally. My boy, our boy, Flower, gets into number 2 all-time on the wins list, 552. Finally, he asked for that win, and the Wild finally came through and got him a shutout. Well, he got the shutout, but the Wild came through. Big win, 5-0 against the Islanders. I love to see that. But Flower moves into second all-time, just underneath your boy of Marty Brodeur for all-time wins as a goaltender, and gets a shutout too. I looked at that. He's probably not going to get – he's 12th right now in shutouts all time. If he gets, I think, 5 more shutouts, he'll be in the top 10. But there's a lot of there's like – I want to say it's 135 is the all-time record. He has about 72, I want to say. So I don't think he's going to get that record. But anyway, our boy Flower, second all-time amongst goaltenders. And, I mean, I had to wear my Wild sweater, my Fleury, today to celebrate that man. He's such a great guy. And we've said this before, such a great guy.
And I mean, the more, again, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, he spent the majority of his career as a Pen. So therefore he was persona non grata to me, basically. But, ever since, especially the move to Minnesota, he's been on the radar, and you see him doing it may have been in that same Islanders game where an Isles player hits the post and he gets up and thanks it mid-play.
That's his thing. Yeah, like he's done that. I haven't paid much attention to it until recently when I really, started to respect him and really enjoy him as one of my favorite players. But he's done that a lot. Anytime like he clings off the post, he taps the post, whether it's the crossbar or any of the other posts. He's like, "Thanks, buddy." Like that's such a goalie thing to do, of just being, so neurotic like that. But you love to see it. And one thing, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, you love to see the guy named Flower get his flowers. I hate, you've been on the train longer than I have, but I think one of the first things we discussed on this pod is, why doesn't this guy get what he deserves? And now that he has some sort of claim, I think especially once it is time for him to hang up the skates, he's going to get what he deserves, and people will realize what we had and regret it.
Yeah, and the kind of final thing I want to close on this piece of news is, in his post-game interview, I don't remember exactly what the question was, but his answer was, "I just wanted to play in the NHL." Like that was his lifelong goal. And not only has he done that for a long time, but he's one of the best to ever do it. And imagine if he wasn't on that crappy Chicago team, and imagine if he wasn't on this mediocre at best Wild team, how many more wins he really could have. But so to that, we'll get into it probably. And the show is mostly about news for everybody listening. We're just going to kind of talk about stuff. Hey, what do you know? It's a podcast where we're talking about stuff. But this is something I was thinking about. I hope that the Wild make a trade and send Flower to a contender, because not only has he earned that to be contending for another Stanley Cup team, but he deserves it. And the Wild are not going to get there. I'll say it right now. I'm putting the stake on. I'm going to make a couple bold claims today. The first one being, and I hope I'm wrong, but Minnesota is not making the playoffs. This is a bad team. They are bad. Like they had an uptick with that coaching change, but now they're back to what we saw before, just being stinky. And I don't like it, but it's the truth. This is a bad team. They are not making the playoffs.
Well, again, like with right now, they're barely above. Well, I say barely. They're a full 10 points ahead of Anaheim, but they're behind St. Louis in points. They're behind Arizona in points. They're behind the hot Kraken in points. They're behind Calgary, who and Edmonton has kind of soared past all of them. The margin for error for Minnesota was already pretty slim, and they kind of blew it. So, yeah, like I think mathematically they're still alive, but it's going to take a lot for them to again 8 points to catch up to 8th place Nashville. It's a lot of ground to make up.
I mean, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. We mentioned before, and the Oilers are on a heater again. 11 games at this point. So you're saying that this Minnesota team has to get on. Let's see, there's about 40 games left in the season. They have to essentially get on at least 2 10-game heaters just to get into contention.
Yeah.
And then they need all those other spots to, falter. Good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
I mean, you're looking at probably, at minimum 30 of those 40 games, right? Like they have to win. And like you said, if they're able to do that, everybody else still has to lose. So
So I'm putting the nail in the coffin. You don't have to join me in that. I hope I'm wrong. Please prove me wrong, but it's not looking great for the Minnesota Wild. Another team that is bad, you know what? And I'm going to say it right here. The Toronto Maple Leafs. They're a bad team. They suck. I don't care how many goals Matthews scores, because guess what? He scored a bunch more. Cool. You know what? In the last 5 of their 7 losses, they've blown multi-goal leads. 5 out of the last 7 losses, they've blown multi-goal leads. You suck, Toronto. Yeah. Hear me out. You suck. And guess what? I'm going to make this claim right here, too. The Toronto Maple Leafs are going to miss the playoffs this year because they are a crappy team. They don't have goaltending, and their big 4 only show up whenever they want to. Tavares, Nylander, Marner, Tavares, they all got their big bags now. Guess what? They're going to show up when they want to. Mustache Matthews is like, oh, yeah, we'll get him tomorrow. No, but yeah, we'll play him again. We'll get him tomorrow. Oh, maybe next time. Tonight wasn't our game. Whatever. You suck. You all suck. And you're not making the playoffs because you don't have a goaltender. So I don't even care about Joseph Wall coming back and being outstanding because we don't know if he will. That high ankle injury that he had, you don't know how he's going to come back. So they are currently – they're in 3rd place in the Atlantic with 50 points. Detroit is making their way back up. Florida is bouncing way ahead. They're probably going to get number 2, probably pretty easily. But Detroit's right on their heels. Tampa Bay is still in the mix. Toronto, I'm again, another bold prediction. Toronto's missing the playoffs because their guys don't show up when you need them to.
Talk about things you love to see. I mean, what was it? They were playing Detroit the other day, and fantastic first period. Like if you like a goaltending battle, it was Reimer, whatever, against Sammy, and I'm like, wow, what a fantastic period from the both of them. I was like, oh wait, look who's in net. This is real. This is literally just who's going to implode first. And
yeah, you said that in the group chat too.
Yeah. So that's what it ended up being. I think 4-2 Detroit wins. And yeah, man, like you can score as many goals as you want. New Jersey went through that at the beginning of the year. You can score as many goals as you want, but if nobody's back there stopping it, what's the point? If you're putting in 6, but the other team's putting in 7, you lost.
Exactly.
So,
yep.
I mean, it's literally that simple.
Yeah, like I said, bold prediction, but I don't know if it's really that bold. Toronto is going to miss the playoffs entirely. Uh, and to that same point, like trade deadline is coming up. I think it's just going to be hilarious when they are buyers and then they falter. That's going to be hilarious to me. Like I love to see it. You know what I mean? And I've said it, I think, before on the show. Here's another bold prediction: the Toronto Maple Leafs will never win a Stanley Cup with these four on the same team. Never going to happen. Austin Matthews on this Toronto Maple Leafs team will never win a Stanley Cup because he doesn't do what a superstar is supposed to do. And I've said that a bajillion times. We don't need to get into that. Moving on to another piece of news. And I bring this up now because he's actually been in links to possibly talks with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And it's Corey Perry, Justin. He is officially eligible to sign a new NHL contract. I guess he had a meeting with Gary Bettman, and not that he was ever banned from the NHL. He never was. But essentially, I guess it was kind of like a process or whatever to see where he was at. And, I think Corey Perry is a great player, and he was actually doing really well this season on a bad Chicago Blackhawks team before, the incident that happened. And, I mean, that was what, maybe 6 weeks ago?
Yeah, not long.
And if the incident was alcohol, involved alcohol, and he also, I believe the statement was alcohol issues, dealing with his mental health issues. Both are very important things that you need to, get right with. I just don't feel that 6 weeks is enough time to really heal, if you will, those issues. You know what I mean? So it's interesting to me. I feel like whoever if he does sign this year, there's going to be talk about it. There's going to be a lot of like, oh, that's going to be headline news. I hope he waits till at least next season to sign a new contract, because I just look at it like, I don't know, man. 6 weeks isn't a whole lot of time to like correct your behavior, I don't think.
So addressing each separately, if the alcohol issue is like a quote unquote one-off, like it's not something that's buried in his past, it's not something that he's been consistently dealing with, okay, maybe he's been able to take care of that, possibly. But when it comes to the mental health, I suppose it's possible that it was created by the situation that he was in, going to Chicago, like that might have, been part of it. Again, we don't know all the details. I'm just speaking into the void. But that's not something to mess around with. And if he lands somewhere like Toronto, who's not right, like that's probably not a good situation. That's a high pressure situation that is going to definitely it's definitely going to deal a blow to your mental health for sure. Mm-hmm. And if the two are related, which the fact that they've come up together, I assume they are, you'll be right back to your alcohol problems with, again, like depending on what those actually are, you're going to be worse for it. So I guess all that to say, Joe, I think I hope you're right. I hope he just stay out of league this year, get yourself right, come back next year refreshed, and get yourself in a better situation just all around, period.
Yeah, agreed. So again, this one I hope I'm not proven wrong about, in the sense of, coming back too soon and then regression, because mental health is a very important thing to pay attention to. So I hope he is right across the board. But I just personally, again, who am I? But maybe take the entire rest of the year off and get yourself right. Because like you said, Toronto is a high pressure situation. If you go there, or really any cup contending team, that's a high pressure situation. So just my take on that. Speaking of high pressure situations, the The NHL All-Star Game, jersey creators were in a high-pressure situation to come up with a great design this year for the NHL All-Star jerseys. And personally, I actually like the sweaters that they came up with. There's a lot of hate online though. The Doritos memes are out there about Cool Ranch and nacho cheese and all the other flavors of Doritos that they look like Doritos bags. What's your take there first, and then I'll give my take.
Honestly, the only thing I don't like is on the back of the sweater, you have the numbers above the names. And apparently the names are in lowercase letters. Other than that, I think it's a cool design. I think it. I mean, I'm not sure what its tie to Toronto is. Maybe I'm reading too far in because last year's I think were
It
in
was like
Florida,
Miami Vice inspired.
right?
Yeah.
So like it's like I love when all-star games in every sport kind of design towards the city that they're in. So maybe I'm just missing something there, but other than as a sweater, like just in a vacuum, I think it's it's a neat sweater. And again, it's an all-star sweater. So it's not like I don't want it to look like the rest of the league. I don't want it. If they went in there with just basically the devil sweater, it's like, well, okay, well, if I wanted a devil sweater, I'd get a devil sweater. Like,
Right.
so
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
I think it's a good sweater. Bottom line.
Yeah, same thing. The font, I'm not a super fan of, and I don't like the names underneath the numbers. But again, overall, it's all star. Like it's something. It's supposed to be different. I remember growing up, there was a couple all star games where it was just, of course, East versus West, and East would wear dark, and West would wear white, but they just had their regular squads sweaters. Um, I don't hate that either. But then I remember them doing, man, it was like orange and white, black and white. There's been a couple iterations that I remember growing up, but it's overall, yeah, I don't hate these. I get the hate because people have to hate on something, but
Yeah.
like you said, it's the All-Star game. It's supposed to be something different. So I don't know. People are always going to hate on something. Speaking of the All-Star game, we mentioned it before when it was announced that the PWHL will have a 3-on-3 showcase on Thursday on All-Star Week. The teams were named. We're not going to go through all of them, but I mentioned this to you. And of course, you made the point of it, and I'll allow you. I'll give you that time here. But I mentioned, like, how is Sarah Nurse on the All-Star team when she has literally one goal throughout 4 games? How is that possible? And you said,
Well, you gotta, especially this first one, you need the star power. And Nursey was never not going to be an all-star. It didn't matter the fact that she did. And I mean, look, good on them. Like, I understand, she is a terrific player, even though it hasn't materialized on Toronto yet. She is a terrific player. She's one of the faces of the league. Nursey was never not making it, and I hate roping this into it, but this is definitely part of the decision. She's an attractive woman. Like, that is definitely part of it. You need that facing forward, especially if you see some of the knuckle draggers that comment on PWHL stuff that are going to be at an NHL event. So ultimately, I hate it because her play hasn't earned it, but I completely understand the decision.
Sure. And I get that too. And I guess my whole thing was like, how do you snub Grace Zumwinkle, who leads the league right now, with
Seriously.
in goals and points? But yeah, she didn't end up making the All-Star game. But again, it's the first one, so I'm happy that they're getting the showcase. It was more so the fan of me, like, all right, I get it. And she's from Toronto, so it was like, okay, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's my only gripe is like, come on, you kind of left off a couple, and Maddie Rooney, who's one of the best goaltenders in the league right now for Minnesota, she didn't make the All-Star game either. But again, it's the first one; it'll get better as time moves on, I'm sure. A couple interesting trade talks we'll get into here. So after Elvis Merzlikins and the Columbus Blue Jackets beat the Vancouver Canucks in a shootout the other day, Elvis requested a trade. His cap hit right now is 5.2 million. I think he has a couple more years left. He requested a trade, and so far, there's been no takers. Nobody's interested, allegedly, from the Daily Faceoff. Trade went out, but nobody's interested in Elvis Merzlikins. I'll save my thoughts, but I'll send this to you, Justin. I think Elvis Merzlikins is a solid goaltender. He's just been on bad Columbus teams.
Yep.
Do you think a career 902 save percentage goalie like Elvis Merzlikins would do well on a team, say, like the Philadelphia Flyers or the New Jersey Devils? For instance, your squad. Could you see Elvis on your squad? What would he do for your squad?
I'll say this: he can't be any worse than V2. Like, I love V2 dearly. I think he's a great dude. We talked about this last year in the playoffs when he got yanked against the Rangers. He's never recovered. He had a bad series against the Rangers. He had a terrible series against the Hurricanes. And other than a few stops here and there this season, he's looked awful out there. He's quite literally the worst tendy in the league, like by every measure. So that said, if the price was right, I'll take Elvis Merzlikins. Sure. He goalied us in I think it was the first matchup 2-1 when we had everybody healthy, and they're getting shots, and Merzlikins just stood on his head, and Columbus goes out there and he stole the game for them. And New Jersey desperately needs somebody who's able to do that. Because occasionally you have off nights. So I think, maybe not us. I don't know what the price tag is. So I don't know what we have to offer Columbus that isn't too steep of a price, other than them maybe paying for most of the salary and then, get a couple depth guys out of us. Philly is interesting, an interesting one that you brought up, because Earson and Hart have been playing decent. Earson's basically stole the net, last I recall. But I think a change of scenery for him could be big. And to answer your question directly, taking out all the mathematics of it, you put Elvis Merzlikins on the Devils, I think they level out and suddenly are, solidly in the playoffs. I don't think we start running away with the league or anything, but I think they are a playoff team with two solid tendies. That I went a long way to answer that one.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think, for instance, like your squad, I think Elvis on a decent squad probably shows out as I don't know about a top goaltender, but a mid goaltender at least over what he's currently at in Columbus, a big thumbs down goaltender, because he doesn't have anybody in front of him. Since we're talking about trades, I just saw this on it's from Daily Dose Hockey, and it's called Deal or No Deal. Obviously, these things haven't actually happened, but a couple interesting scenarios close to not necessarily close to the trade deadline, but it's right around the corner. So speaking of your Devils, Justin, a mock trade would see Jacob Markstrom going to the New Jersey Devils. Calgary would retain 33% of his cap hit, and in return, the Calgary Flames would get Dawson Mercer in a first-round pick in 2024. Would you buy or sell that?
Sell. Nope. No thanks. Markstrom is much older.
No thanks.
Okay. Yeah, pass. Number one, I don't want to lose Merc Dog. You said Mercer, and I'm out. That guy is a very important piece going forward. Whether we can retain him, if we can lock him up, big time, remains to be seen. But in the next 2 to 3 years, or however long he's signed at this point, that guy's going to be an important piece for us. 33% of Markstrom's salary isn't enough. Calgary would definitely have to take on more than that if they can. And like I said, Markstrom's just not good enough. He isn't going to go out there and steal games for us, and that's what we need. We don't need another. I've seen games where Markstrom looks brilliant, and I've seen games where Markstrom just gets torched. We don't need that. We need a guy who's going to go back there and he can just have the net and it be safe, and that's just one less thing we worry about. Markstrom's not that guy.
There would also be 3 more years at about $4.5 million ish.
Absolutely not.
You'd have to pay Markstrom, who is 33, like you said. So yeah, probably not a great trade. Even and also he hasn't been the Markstrom of. He's been not great over the last 2 seasons. So
yep.
Here's another mock trade. The guy that we were just talking about. You're gonna laugh at this. So the Edmonton Oilers would receive Elvis Merzlikins in exchange for Philip Broberg, who I don't really know a lot about, and Jack Campbell. I can't even say that with a straight face.
So Elvis for a player in a can of soup. Man, like whatever, dude. Like, I mean, if I'm Edmonton,
yep, basically.
If I'm Edmonton, I snatch that up. I feel like Elvis is a step in the right direction. Maybe if nothing else, Edmonton has firepower. Edmonton can score goals. So like that's something Columbus definitely doesn't have. Seeing what Merzlikins has been able to do in the net in Columbus, to me, says he can probably win Edmonton more games. So yeah, sure. Like I don't know who the other dude is, but yeah, you can take my can of soup and that other guy and give me Elvis Merzlikins. I'll take it all day.
I would pass on that because Columbus would not be getting anything in return for that. You're basically getting a worse goaltender. You're giving away your best shot at winning any games, and you're getting a worse goaltender. So I'm going to pass on that.
Yeah,
I got 2 more mock trades for you, and this one is interesting.
I was just going to say, I guess if I'm Columbus, yeah, I pass. If I'm Edmonton, I'll take that all day.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. I got 2 more mock trades for you. And this first one, actually, I'll do this pause. This first one, Jake Gensel going to the Vancouver Canucks, which we talked about a couple weeks ago, and Pittsburgh receiving Andrei Kuzmenko. That don't know this guy, and a first-round pick in 2024. So Andrei Kuzmenko, who's a solid forward, he's been scratched a lot this year, though. It looks like a prospect, and then a first-round pick in 2024 going to Pittsburgh and sending over Jake Gensel to Vancouver.
Seems kind of steep, but I think if you're Pittsburgh, you're getting Kuzmenko and you're giving him a change of scenery, like a lineup that he can probably break into. And if you're Vancouver, you're getting a very solid depth piece. I'd love to see what he can do, with those lines. Like even Dakota Joshua's gotten going now. Like that offense is pretty much all 4 lines are going. So if I'm Vancouver, I take that. Like, I mean, again, it feels like you're giving up a lot, but this might be the best position Vancouver is going to have for the next couple years. You got to take the swing, and maybe he's the guy that can who can get you enough points to get you the other round. Like I said, I think Pittsburgh probably wins that trade. And if I'm Pittsburgh, I take it all day. But even Pittsburgh's kind of, I don't want to talk myself in circles. I think I accept. I think I take that trade.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, just in the sense of what is Pittsburgh, or more so, where is Pittsburgh going to be at around the trade deadline? Because
Yeah.
they're still kind of keeping alive in the Metro, like you mentioned off air before we went on. The Metro is a toss up, truly. I mean,
Yeah.
the Rangers are first with Philly right behind them, and then Carolina. But it's still a toss up. Truly, anybody can kind of go on a heater and win, because nobody in the Metro has gone on a true heater this year. Really, no more than like an 8-1 record over 10. 8-1 or whatever, 8-2. Nobody's got on a heater, so it's possible that things can switch around. So really, I think it comes down to where's Pittsburgh at, and are they going to be buyers or sellers? Because
Mhm.
the window's getting real thin.
Yeah.
So this would be interesting. I like Andrei Kuzmenko. He was almost a 40 goal scorer last year. For whatever reason, he's just not fitting in with Rick Tocchet's lineup. So, yeah, it might be interesting to see what he could do in Pittsburgh. And I think, like you said, Gensel in Vancouver is very interesting. A guy that can definitely get you 20 goals, closer to 30, and around 70, 80 points. That could be interesting in Vancouver. So I would definitely buy this trade if it was going to be a thing. I like that for Vancouver. The last mock trade I want to send to you is going to be this. Trevor Zegras goes to the Montreal Canadiens in exchange for Yuriv Slafkowski. Slafkowski is a rookie, and as we've seen, Trevor Zegras has had a tough year. He's injured again, and doesn't seem to be fitting in well into this new regime of the Anaheim Ducks. So are you buying or selling that Trevor Zegras going to Montreal?
Man, it's hard to separate the hype for Zegras versus what's been done right on the ice. On paper, I'm rejecting it.
Ain't
I
that the
know
truth? Yeah.
right? I think, like, if you're looking at, I feel like, obviously I haven't had as many Habs games as I've watched. I don't think I've seen much of Slafkowski. I don't know if I just happened to watch games where, because I know he was out for a spell, right? I think he got hurt for a minute.
He was out. He was out for a couple. Yeah.
So I might have just missed him. Again, like, it feels like you're trading promise for promise. I don't know if I like Zegras in Montreal is the big thing. I think Anaheim would win that trade, because you're trading a contract out, an underperforming contract, for a kid who we really haven't seen what he can do yet. So I think if you're Anaheim, you take that trade, even though you're giving up the flash of Zegras. I don't know if I'm Montreal, I'm taking that. Like, I feel like there's got to be something else to make that. So, as wild as this sounds, I think I'm passing. I think if it's a 1-for-1 trade, I think I'm passing.
Wow. So I'll give you the stats real quick. Trevor Zegras this year, 4 goals, 3 assists, -5, 1 power play point, 49 shots on goal, 7 hits. And Slafkowski, 5 goals, 11 assists, -8, 3 power play points, 61 shots on goal, 65 hits. To me, honestly, I like Zegras in Montreal. I think that younger squad there, he might do better in Montreal than he does in Anaheim, to the sense that Zegras reminds me a lot of another guy that I always chirp, and that's Austin Matthews. And it just seems like he's very ho-hum, doesn't really put in a lot of effort, very just mid, in the sense like, we'll get him tomorrow, whatever. I don't really care. I think if Zegras is in Montreal, he would be pushed a lot harder than he is being pushed in Anaheim, especially with Martin St. Louis. I think he would get his game going. I actually like Zegras in Montreal. And Slafkowski, he's basically, again, he's a rookie. Seems like he might have a promising career. I think he may do well down in Anaheim. So I would buy this trade if it was going to be a thing. But what I'm going to hit you with now, Justin, we did some over-unders and some would-you-rathers in the offseason. And this one really sticks out to me because we were both pretty high on the Anaheim Ducks in the offseason, Justin, very hopeful for them.
Yes. Yes, we
So
were.
I had asked you over or under the Ducks finish in fourth place in the Pacific. Are you? And currently they are in last place in the, or excuse me, they're seventh, 7 out of 8 next to the Sharks. Do you want to change your prediction that they're going to be? You said over or under. Yeah, you said over. Sorry, excuse me. You said over. I was looking at the wrong thing. Do you want to change that?
Let's see. They're 16 points behind Seattle. So, I mean, I love the moves, and even when you watch the Ducks, it's like they play hard. Like, really, the way the Ducks season is going is how I thought the Flyers season was going to go. Like for all the same reasons. Like, I thought the Flyers were going to go out there and play hard, but they just weren't going to be able to win games. That's exactly what's happening with the Ducks. So if I had them at fourth, whoa. If I had them over under fourth, if I had it at over, then I definitely want to go with the under. Maybe I'm mishearing the question.
No, yeah, that was the question.
Okay. So yeah, under. under. Smash that under.
Yeah. Good call. We also said over under 30 goals for Trevor Zegras. We both said over for that one. Obviously, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
He's out for 6 to 8 weeks with that broken ankle. So just interesting that we predicted the Anaheim Ducks to do well, and they are not doing well, of course. So I came across that today when I was looking at stuff that we're going to do for the news. So that was funny. Speaking of crappy teams, the San Jose Sharks, this is a side conversation, but the San Jose Sharks will be retiring Joe Thornton's number 19 sweater in the 2024-25 season. So next season, they're going to do a little ceremony for Jumbo Joe Thornton and retire that number 19 sweater. I might have to go to San Jose for that because, man, I really enjoyed Joe Thornton's career, and I wish he would have won a cup.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so, again, this has been brought up a lot lately, but Tina just went on the West Coast roadie, and they went to the Shark Tank, and I'm just thinking, just once, man. I just want to go once. Like, I mean, I'd love to hit all those arenas there, like the 3 that are right there, but what a reason to go, right? Like an unheralded player because he never got to raise the cup. And yeah, that's pretty cool that they're doing that for him. I mean, you kind of have to if you're the Sharks, but
I'm surprised. I'm surprised. So by the time they do it, it'll be 3 full seasons since he actually retired. So I'm actually just surprised it took this long, really.
Yeah.
But so let's touch on this real quick before we get to our 3 stars. The PWHL weekly standings. Minnesota, as you said, is a powerhouse, Justin. They are leading the league. 4 games played, 3-0-1-0 with 10 points. Montreal right behind them with 6. Then New York, Ottawa, Toronto, and Boston on the bottom. Minnesota is a powerhouse. They did lose the other night to New York. I was watching that game. That was a tough game. And they went to a shootout, and New York just got the better of them. But, man, that was probably the best game that I've watched this year, Minnesota versus New York. I could definitely see that being the championship game.
Yeah.
When it gets there.
Yeah. Minnesota, they take the L. So, like, does that take the wagon off them? I guess technically, but I mean, it's a very high-powered offense.
Well, I don't know though. They did get the overtime point, so
they did. Yeah,
they took it to overtime, then a shootout. So, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I mean, still no regular time loss. So, I mean, this will be the true test, right? This week, like, how do they respond? Do they let that go and just get right back on? Um, I'm inclined to think so. Again, Heise's been unreal. Like every bit the hype, every bit the number one pick.
Yes.
She is terrific.
And Zumwinkle and
Yeah.
Rooney's on a tear.
So like they have the pieces. I'm inclined, like after I watched Montreal, New York last night, and New York they've got a fight. And Corrine Schroeder, she's again, we've dubbed her Wall Street as her nickname in the chat, in the YouTube chat. She's great. She's terrific. She's, I guess they've played four or five games, and the ones where she's in net, she's basically winning the games for them. I don't think she's gotten lit up yet. Minnesota, New York, probably, yeah. Montreal looked really good last night. There's something scrappy about them, and they might be my team. So I'm trying not to homer it, but I could see Minnesota, New York being the championship game for sure.
The thing I want to touch on about that Minnesota New York game too, really the reason why Minnesota lost, they couldn't stay out of the box. They got 2 power play goals scored on them. And the second power play, if I remember right, it was like, man, the face off in the offensive zone, and it was like boom, boom, goal. It was so quick. So I give props to New York on that. Their power play was tremendous. So to that same point, if you give them opportunities, they're going to capitalize. And they did that too in the very first game. They scored a lot of their goals on that power play when it was, well, if I remember, the score was like 5-1 or 5-0 that first game, if you remember, and they scored on the power play. So don't let New York go on the power play. That is the main concern there, PWHL. So let's get into our 3 stars of the week and get out of here, because we're supposed to be a quick episode, but that never happens with us. So the way that we're going to do it this week, tell our listeners, usually Justin and I coordinate and decide who we're going to have. Today's going to be a little different. We're going to I'm going to pick one. Justin's going to pick one. And then we're both going to throw out a first star, and we'll do much like Justin's other show, Deprogrammed, where we kind of argue about who's going to be the number one with the bullet. So, Justin, go ahead and throw out your take it away. This isn't necessarily 1, 2, or 3 this week. We're just going to name 3 stars.
So we just brought her up in the prior conversation. A little bit, a little bit of a step back for this week, but I mean, the numbers bear out. 3 games played, 1.96 goal against, 0.942 save percentage, Joe. Corrine Schroeder, Wall Street at number 3, just still, like, I mean, again, I talked about Montreal, New York, like Levy was solid in net for New York last night. But you got to believe if Wall Street was back there, maybe we're talking about a wholly different game. So yeah, she's just tremendous. I love watching Schroeder play, and that's really hard for me to give props to a New York club in hockey. So Corrine Schroeder, our third star, our A star of the week.
A star of the week. Yeah. That was actually she was going to be one of my picks, actually, because looking at the stats, she played 1 less game this week, but the goals against and the save percentage is just outstanding. So she was going to be one of mine too. So solid pick there. I'm going to go over to the NHL for this one. And this over this last week is guys that we have not talked about at all. So really I could name a lot of guys, but I want to throw this guy out there because he doesn't get mentioned a lot at all. And while he has a couple points less than everybody, he's cruising along, and that's going to be, man, these are both kind of, you know what? I just changed it on the fly because both of these were going to be kind of homer picks. So I'm going to give it to this guy instead. Doing it for the club. That's Blake Coleman of the Calgary Flames. 3 goals, 3 assists, 6 points. Calgary's won a couple here as of late. Calgary's so weird, man. I mean, this is a whole other longer conversation. I can't get behind them. They're so wishy-washy. Like, Yeah, they've won a couple and they're kind of in the mix, but I just can't get behind them. But Blake Coleman, 3 goals, 3 assists, 6 points on the week. And that's a guy we don't usually talk about. So you need guys like him to step up. Also, you need like Nazem Kadri and Jonathan Huberdeau and Igor Sharangovich, guys that are supposed to step up. But that's a whole other conversation. But another star this week is Blake Coleman.
To your point about Calgary being wishy-washy, aren't they kind of what we thought Vancouver was going to be going into this season?
Yeah, they really are. That's a solid pick there. We didn't know. Yeah, we don't know what they are, and they're just they're so back and forth. They can't get on a heater and they can't get on a losing streak. They're just kind of in that purgatory mid, and that's probably the worst place to be. You know what I mean? Like, side conversation. We know the Sharks suck. We know the Blackhawks suck, but they're at least going to get a high lottery pick. Calgary's going to end up again somewhere around that 14, 15, 16 spot, and you're not going to get a great prospect. You're not going to get a great draft pick unless you trade up. Like, purgatory mid is the worst place to be in the NHL. Either get on a heater and get in that, get a good run in you, or tank and get a better lottery pick, personally.
So I'm going to throw this one out as last star, and we might be locking in the same place, but judging by your prior pick, maybe not. And maybe it's just recency bias. I've watched a lot of PWHL, but looking at the top of the points board for the PWHL is Alex Carpenter. 5 games played, 7 points. You got to love that production, and it matches. I mean, again, one more game than the NHL, same amount of points as the top point getter in the NHL. So you got to love the production coming out of Alex Carpenter.
We actually hit on the same thing on the first time we're doing this. We have a unanimous on the number one with the bullet. I was also going to say Alex Carpenter because that was my same reasoning. We'll say it, right here since it's our show. But yeah, Mikko Rantanen of the Avalanche also has 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points. So yeah, Alex Carpenter matched the big boy in the NHL. The only thing I don't like about Alex Carpenter is she plays for New York. That's my only gripe about that. But that's definitely without a doubt our number one with the bullet, Alex Carpenter, for star of the week. Justin, before we get out of here, I just saw this today. So Amazon, well, actually, we'll start with this. Bally Sports filed bankruptcy, and a lot of teams use Bally Sports for their regional broadcasting, right? So it was kind of up in the air of what was going to happen to teams like the Arizona Coyotes, LA Kings, Anaheim Ducks, the Dallas Stars, Minnesota Wild. A lot of teams used Bally Sports for regional broadcasting. There was talks that the teams would inherit their rights back themselves and that they could do their own broadcasting thing. That was kind of the talk of it. But it was announced today that Amazon is continuing its quest to become a major player in sports broadcasting. Amazon will be broadcasting via Prime Video a large majority of all the American NHL teams. And this is from the Daily Faceoff. According to multiple sources, Amazon is acquiring stake in Diamond Sports due to their bankruptcy reorganization, allowing Prime Video to become the primary sports streaming partner for regional sports networks, RSNs. And again, like I just mentioned, so that will cover the Coyotes, the Kings, the Ducks, the Yotes, Stars, Blues, Wild, Red Wings, Blue Jackets, Preds, Hurricanes, the Panthers, the Lightning. So a lot of teams, right? So this is great news. And while there's a whole other conversation about Amazon, but hey, if we can get games on Prime, dude, that would be like much better than ESPN Plus. I'll tell you that much. Mm-hmm. This would be great if this does go into effect, and it would be next season when that happens.
Any way you can get more eyes on the product is a plus. And I'm thankful that ESPN Plus has NHL games. I have seen a lot more NHL games because of ESPN Plus in the last season and a half than I have in literally a decade, probably longer.
Yes.
However,
Yes.
the Devs and the Caps have played 3 times, and not, this isn't necessarily related, but there's really no reason I shouldn't have been able to watch all 3 of those games. There's really no reason I had to wait
Right.
until Max.
Exactly.
They put it on Max, like a national broadcast. There's no reason for that. I should be able to, at this point in time in life, in it's 2024, man. Like I should be able to watch all NHL games. They're all being broadcast somewhere. It's ridiculous that you have to, hunt and peck to be able to watch as much hockey as you want to watch. So.
It's ridiculous that you have to inherit 37 computer viruses trying to find a side site to try to watch some NHL hockey games. You know what I mean? Like,
yes,
it's terrible. It's ridiculous. And to that same point, I mean, even think about this: the NFL being such a major organization that it is, started getting their games on Amazon Prime. And while I don't follow the NFL personally, but I have Amazon Prime, so anytime I opened up my Amazon Fire Stick, I would see that the game is X minus hours away type thing. So like, not that I'm going to watch it, but think about that on randoms TVs that are showing like, oh, I could watch an NHL hockey game. I might check that out. So this is great for the NHL just in general to be able to have that. I love that move. I love it. And the last thing that I want to actually two things, because on this day 16 years ago, Rick Nash of the Columbus Blue Jackets did a dirty coast to coast dangle against the Arizona Coyotes. And this is probably the best highlight in Rick Nash's career. This. Did you see this? I sent it to you on the Barn Chirpers on the Instagram, but he literally goes coast to coast. And the dirtiest dangle I have ever seen in hockey. Like, and I'm chirping Rick Nash. I think he was a solid player. He did make some highlight reel plays throughout his career, but this was probably the dirtiest play that I've ever seen. So that was pretty cool. Also on this same day, 16 years ago, technically it was yesterday, but this is when I became a fan of Alex Ovechkin, and he was also playing the Arizona Coyotes. He went coast to coast and ended up scoring a goal on his back. Like he got taken down and went behind his back over his head and got scored a goal. And that was the first time I ever saw Alex Ovechkin. And that's why he was my favorite player ever since then. And unfortunately, it was against the Yotes back then. So we've mentioned the Yotes a few times in the last 5 minutes, not for good reasons. But anyway, those are a couple things that happened on this day in history. But it happens. They've turned it around. So that's the last thing, actually, I want to. I ended that with the Yotes for a reason. In our preseason predictions, I said that they were going to get over 40 wins on the season. Currently, they have 40 games left, and they've already won 21 games, which is better than what the pace that they're at last year. They only won 28 games. So they're only 7 games away right now from beating last year's record. So I got to say they're on a good pace to get that 40-win mark. That's all I'm saying on that. You don't have to respond if you don't want to.
Well, I mean, they have 21 wins, right, with 40-ish 42 games exactly left, or 40 games left. 500 hockey gets them up and over 40. 41 wins. Does that get them to the playoffs? That's a whole different conversation. So 500 hockey is basically what they've been doing all season. You know what I mean? The club that they've put on the ice is probably a 500 hockey club. You know what I mean? I personally, having watched Coyotes games, I would love if they play better than 500 hockey and sneak in. But, maybe that's asking for too much.
Yeah, I mean, well, okay, we're getting on a side quest here, but I really think they have to make Ingram the number one. Like, just give him all the starts. Trade Veggie. I like Veggie, but trade him away. He needs something new. Like, clearly his confidence is rocked, and he just can't get it done in Arizona right now. He's a good goaltender. He really is. He started out well this season, and then Ingram came in and has stolen the net. Like, put Ingram in 3 out of 5 games, right? We need to get somebody else in there. Veggie just doesn't work right now in Arizona. His confidence, I said it 2 seconds ago, his confidence is rattled. Like, he just can't get a win anymore. So trade him off, trade him away, get a piece for him, get something for him. Connor's the guy, and I hope they make him 1A. They need to.
1-for-1. Veggie over to New Jersey for Vitek Vanacek. I accept.
Oh, Veggie in New Jersey would probably, well, it'd be better than V2 for sure.
Yeah.
You know what? I mean, yeah, I don't know. That change of scenery, I think, would do Veggie really good. But anyway, we went way longer than we wanted to, but we always do.
Uh-huh.
We're the Barn Chirpers. You know what to do. We'll be back next week for some more stuff and things and whatever else happens in the NHL. And yeah, I guess maybe we'll do some like more bold predictions or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But until then, play to the whistle, keep your head up, stick taps and Sally's boys, clap it up.
Yeah. Woo. Oh. And